Welcome back to the Payal Nanjiani Leadership Podcast. This is the iconic series where I go one on one with some of the world's top CEOs and thought leaders around the globe. And today we have with us joining in the studio none other than Dr. Amy Killen, who is the longevity and regenerative medicine physician, entrepreneur, and educator. Dr. Amy is the founder and CEO of the Human Optimization Project, which is a longevity focused nutritional supplement and education platform that makes staying on top of current trends in aging prevention easy and fun. And she is on the core team of Reputable, a decentralized science platform that incentivizes betterment experiments and supports the quantified collective movement. And she joins us here today on the Payal Nanjiani Leadership Podcast to talk about rejuvenating your health. Dr. Amy, thank you so much for joining us. It is such a pleasure and an honor to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. And today we are talking all about health and how do we rejuvenate our health. So before I dive deep, I know I did not read completely about you. So what made you pursue this career and how did you just come about doing what you're doing?
So I was an emergency physician for the first 10 years. I went to school for that, did my residency, and then I worked for 10 years in busy ERs. And towards the end of that, I had 3 kids myself, and I started to kind of see the effects of chronic stress and sleep deprivation and not eating well and not exercising on my own health. And then I started looking around the ER and I noticed that a lot of the patients that were coming in to the hospital were there because they weren't preventing illnesses and they weren't getting proper education about how to do that. Mm-hmm. And so I saw it as an opening for me to leave the emergency department and start learning about how to really prevent health and to help, kind of go to that next level of health. Just above wellness, like what is that next level? And so I became very interested in health optimization and longevity and how to achieve that level of health.
Wow. So you mentioned about stress, so do you find that stress is one of the major causes of any types of health illnesses today?
I do. I think that stress and lack of sleep, which kind of go hand in hand, I think that those two things are not talked about enough, but they are drivers of a lot of chronic disease. And they're also causing a lot of acute problems. I do a lot of work with sexual health, and I think that and hormones and things like that. And we see stress causing problems in those areas specifically as well.
Wow. So let me talk about this lack of sleep that you just mentioned, because a lot of our listeners who are actually corporate leaders, working round the clock, and especially now with the recession coming in and a lot of pressure from the Wall Street for them to deliver the results, they are facing a lot of lack of sleep. And we all know that. We read about it in magazines and business magazines. What would be your tips or suggestions for them, when it comes to lack of sleep? What would you say about that?
I think the first thing is to prioritize sleep. And I know I have a lot of friends who are entrepreneurs and business owners, and they get, 3 or 4 or 5 hours of sleep because that's all they have time for. But I think that a lot of it's just that people don't make sleep a priority because they don't think that they need it. They can survive without it. And I did for many years myself. But, during sleep is when a lot of important things happen. A lot of your hormones are made during sleep. So like growth hormone and testosterone, which is important for men and women, as well as a lot of other things are made during sleep. And so you're not going to be able to achieve, your best during the day if you're not getting the sleep you need at night. So it's not just a throwaway kind of thing. Like sleep is really important. And long term, when you're not sleeping, that makes your cortisol levels go up. And cortisol is like sort of a stress associated hormone. And so when you don't sleep well or don't get enough sleep, cortisol goes up. And that's also going to cause inflammation in your body, which is going to negatively affect almost every system in your body, including your brain and your heart and your blood vessels. And, just all different things are going to be affected. So I think, making sleep a priority is number one. And then once it's a priority, there are all kinds of tips and tricks you can do to actually be able to sleep better.
Can you share that with us? Just a few of them at least. Like what would be some of the tricks and techniques to really sleep better?
So first of all, avoiding alcohol within 2 hours of sleep. And if you're going to drink, maybe don't drink more than 1 or 2 drinks because alcohol is
That's a good one.
it's really bad for sleep. Avoiding food actually 2 hours before bed can make a difference because your body wants to be really in a relaxed state. And then avoiding screens, devices and computers and such at least an hour before bed, because that can affect your melatonin production, which is really important for sleep. And then sleeping in a really cool, very dark room. A lot of people don't sleep in cold enough spaces or in dark enough spaces. I use an eye mask when I sleep, and that can make a big difference as well.
It does, and especially when you said about the food, I'm a very early eater. By 6:37, I'm just done with my food because I think that gives you enough time to just digest it, and for your and like you said, it also impacts your sleep patterns. Whereas I know many people across the globe in different parts of the world, especially here out of America, where the food timing is basically 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the night. And I think, with them hearing you, I think that really makes sense that how important our diet and what not just what we eat, but basically what time we eat also impacts our sleep in a way.
It does. Our cells are actually on our circadian rhythm. So your cells are functioning on this 24-hour clock, and they need a period of time to rest. And when you eat late at night, you're kind of confusing your cells because they were going to go into rest mode. And then all of a sudden you're putting all this food in there for them to have to work. And so there's all kinds of studies that show that if you eat later at night, it increases your blood pressure, it increases your blood sugar and your insulin. It makes you more prone to be overweight and to develop diabetes. So there's a lot of long-term consequences of potentially eating too late also.
Wow. So just talking about, since you spoke about health, wellness, are these both words interrelated? Are they different? Because I think a lot of times people have a confusion between both these words, health and wellness. Are they the same?
Well, I think they're just more used in different sects. Like, traditional medicine tends to talk about health more, and versus sort of alternative medicine, is all about wellness. To me, wellness just means being generally healthy and not having a lot of diseases or dis-ease, as we call it. And I think that they're very similar words. They're just used by different people.
Wow. So you worked with people across the globe. You've had people from different arenas and different fields. What is one of the biggest challenges that you have faced while guiding people towards their health and wellness? I'm going to use both those terms, for you.
I think that the most difficult thing is to just get people to adopt all of the healthy lifestyle stuff that we know is good for us. People are always looking for a magic pill or a magic shot.
Yeah.
I do stem cell injections, which are pretty great, but you still have to have a foundation of health. So you still have to start with, the basics: diet and exercise and mindset and sleep and, and community and all of those things. And those are more difficult to implement than just getting a shot or a pill. So that's the hardest thing, is to convince people to start with the basics and then build upon those versus going straight to trying some sort of magic, pill or something.
So how much impact do these fast foods have on our health?
Yeah, there are some food that's fast food that's not as bad for you, but certainly the highly processed foods with a lot of trans fats, especially, are going to be very inflammatory for us. I think that I'm someone who thinks that moderation is important. I'm not super strict with myself, but I want to, for the most part, I eat healthy, and then occasionally I'll splurge and have sugary foods or fast food or things like that, and I think that's okay, but I do think that it's important to build that foundation of mostly healthy food before you occasionally have treats here and there.
Yeah, and I think, like with what you said, everything has a consequence, right? So if you are on a diet like this, which is always eating on the go and having fast foods, it somewhere really impacts everything from your sleep to your health, like you mentioned.
Yeah, it does. And when I was an ER doctor, I was, I ate. I was so busy. I never sat down, and I was just grabbing food and eating whatever I could get my hands on. And I have pictures of myself from that time period. And I I look different, I think that you could see it in my face and my skin and my body. When you start becoming a little bit more healthier, so many things change on the outside and the inside.
Wow. But now when I'm seeing you, I can say you look awesome.
Oh, thank you.
So you're like, wow. So what are some of the best practices when it comes to rejuvenating your health? What are some of the practices people should imbibe in their daily life?
I think exercise is obviously very important, and that includes both aerobic exercise and weight training. One of the things I see, especially in women, is that we don't tend to want to do as much weight training, lifting heavy weights and building muscle. But that's actually really, really important, especially as we get older, for men and women, because you start to lose muscle and it becomes harder and harder to build muscle. And muscle is very rejuvenating. Muscle is very good about helping to keep your blood sugars regulated and prevent diabetes and keep your blood pressure low, and all of these things are related, right? Like it all goes together. So I think making sure that you add in strength training a few days a week in addition to sort of normal cardiovascular aerobic exercise is important, and maybe not talked about as much as it should be. I also think that the mental part, the mindset part, is extremely important. And I think a lot of us as entrepreneurs, we're so busy that we just don't set enough time aside to actually work on the mindset piece. And, whether that's doing some meditation or, for me, I like to just go outside. I live in Utah. I love to go out and just do, a walk in the neighborhood or walk in the mountains. So walks in nature are kind of like my meditation, but, it can be breath work. It can be journaling. It can be meditation. It could be yoga, but something where your mind is able to really kind of calm down and just be present. It can make a huge difference later on in being able to function at a higher level.
But do the people have time? Like, you're working with so many entrepreneurs, you're working with so many corporates. Do you think people have the time, or is it that we just don't want to take the time out for all of this?
Yeah, I think that we all have an extra 10 minutes that we can give if we prioritize it. And that, I think that it's about deciding what's important to you. And is it scrolling through Instagram? Is it, watching TV? Is it spending time with yourself? I think that it's just a matter of deciding this is what's important and then making those things happen.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because you mentioned this here is the prioritizing part of it, and I think that's where most of us lack. We prioritize everything around us but ourselves and our health, and then down the line we've been hearing so many entrepreneurs and so many executives having poor health, and they are having cardiovascular diseases and heart attacks and diabetes, like you said. But I think if we just learn how to prioritize and put ourselves at least somewhere on that list, that should be the key.
Yeah. And also just making sure that you're getting your checkups with your doctor, checking all your blood work, getting some good blood testing and other diagnostic testing. I think a lot of busy people, when we think that we're healthy and we're like, I'm healthy, I don't need to go to the doctor. And then you just don't get basic tests done. You don't get normal things that other people do because we think that we don't need them for some reason. But we do. We all should get those basic screening tests done.
True. And all of a sudden, that's when we realize that, hey, we were important to ourselves. So I think that's a great point that you brought up. And you mentioned about, prioritizing yourself, but are there any types of suggestions or tips that you would give for leaders so that they can balance their career and their health?
I think that there are ways to do both. I mean, a lot of corporations and leaders are combining the two. They'll have corporate wellness events or corporate wellness time at the office where they're, doing yoga at the office, or they're doing mindfulness at the office with a group of people. So you're bringing your staff into that as well. And it's still kind of a work event, but you're able to, do the practices that are healthy. And that works for some people. Some people like to keep those things separate. But it's really, there's so many opportunities out there. I work with a lot of people who do prioritize their health, a lot of these sort of biohacker sorts who spend a lot of time on their health. And, there are retreats out there, there are conferences, there's all this education, there's tons of information on YouTube and videos and books. And so it's really just a matter of deciding, hey, I want to not just be healthy, but I want to be super healthy. Like, I want to be as good as I can be for myself and for my company and for my family and for all of these people. And once you decide it, there's so many resources. You just have to ask for help.
I think that's where many of us lack. We're just getting grinded in the day-to-day work, and we don't even realize, when our health is creating an issue, and that's the time it just sounds an alarm that, hey, now I need to do something for my health. And for many of us, that becomes quite late down the line then.
Yeah, it's so much better to prevent these problems, right? I mean, we all know that. We know that we should get our car checked on and prevent it from before
that. But we will get our car checked. I'll tell you that. Most of us, we get the car checked, but we won't get ourselves checked.
Yeah. And we'll get our kids into the doctor. Yes. We'll get, they have all of their tests done. But we just don't do it for ourselves because we just kind of put ourselves last. But if you actually want to, if we want to be here in 10 or 20 or 30 years and be able to show up every day at the highest level, then we need to actually take care of ourselves now.
But you just mentioned that we just keep moving ahead. But do you find a difference between men and women when it comes to their health and wellness? Is it true that women neglect their health at the cost of many things, their career and their family, whereas men would generally balance it out some way? Have you seen that difference? Because you work with both, so.
I think to me, they're pretty similar in terms of major health stuff. I think both men and women will come to the doctor if something's actually wrong. I do think that women oftentimes, especially when they have young kids, will prioritize, everything else first. But eventually, if we get sick enough, we all end up going into the doctor. I think sometimes men don't go in as early, also just because they have this sort of mentality of they're going to beat this on their own and they're tough and they don't need help. But obviously, that's true for some things, but not for all.
Wow. Okay. So you spoke about you need to be healthy for the next 20, 30 years. You should be able to carry on your work. Where do you see the health and wellness industry in the future?
Oh, there's so much work being done right now in the longevity field. If you follow it at all, there's tons of money being dumped into longevity research.
Yeah.
And, whether that's longevity supplements or medications or, gene editing, or there's so much going on with that. So I really think that we're going to see a big change in the next probably 10 or 20 years in how we take care of ourselves, because it's not just going to be lifestyle, diet, exercise. It's going to be, what are the next level things we can do? Like, what are some of the medications that we can take to actually delay aging, to delay the things that are causing aging on the cellular level? And there's already some medications that may do that. Yeah. What are the supplements that we can take? What are the, what are the things that we can do that are higher level to prevent even normal aging from happening? Because there's a lot of talk about aging. Aging is by some people as being a disease, because when you age, it increases your risk for almost all other diseases. So there's debate about whether aging itself is a disease, but it definitely sets you up for other diseases. So if we can delay aging, on the cellular level in our body, then maybe we can actually prevent a lot of diseases. So there's a lot of research being done on that area.
And I think that is so much interesting, because there's a lot being done, like you said, in the field where you can delay your aging, because that's where it's going to cause a lot of problems, bone health problems, and your overall wellness gets impacted. So there's a lot of research now being done on this, like how do you really work with your cells and everything.
Yeah, there's so much research.
Like, are you also into helping in this research or anything like that?
I'm not a researcher, but I do work with, I do stem cell procedures on patients. So I do a lot of work in the regenerative medicine space. So we're doing stem cells to try to help with, not necessarily with aging, but helping to regenerate or rejuvenate specific parts of the body. And then I also have a longevity-based supplement company where we're combining specific ingredients to try to slow down aging from a nutritional standpoint. So I have a couple of different projects that are in this area, but I'm not actually researching it myself.
But I can't wait to see the breakthrough that is going to happen here because of all of this research that is coming up. And like you said, you already are working on so many supplements, for rejuvenating your health and everything. So I think there's going to be a big breakthrough that will come through this entire industry of health and wellness very soon.
Yes, I think 5 to 10 years we'll have some things in the market
Oh yes, yep, yep. There's so much going on here in America. I mean, I see, so many products being focused on health, on wellness, on anti-aging, on slowing down aging. So I think we all just can't wait to see that breakthrough.
I know we can't. I mean, most products out there right now, we're not really slowing down aging, but we may be
Yeah,
helping a little healthier.
outer,
But
outer. That's the outer
but
one.
yeah, but we tell ourselves we're slowing down aging. So
So I think that would be a great one because that's where all the problem. And I'm so glad you brought this up. I mean, it was a fantastic conversation on this. But as we wrap up, what would be your big advice to people who want to lead a healthy life?
I think the biggest thing is just get out there and learn more. There's so many great resources. And if you're interested, you can reach out to me on Instagram or through my website, but there's a lot of resources that can give you information about how to take baby steps and then bigger steps and bigger steps. And what's really going on in this field, because this is a huge, important field of study and research, but there are things that you can do every day that will make big differences. And so just, make it a priority, and it's fun and it's exciting. And, we'd love to have you join the cause.
Wow. Now, and I think this episode was so important for us because as we are stepping we are into the new year now, and it has been it's a time where you are excited to deliver your best. It's a time when you want to do more, but at the same time, you try to neglect your health, you try to neglect your sleep and everything. So I think this was so important to have someone like you come and speak and share so much of your experience and your insights.
Well, thank you. It was great.
Thank you. So, thank you so much, Amy, for doing this for us and being here and sharing your incredible advice. And you've given some fantastic nuggets, something to really think about for all of us. So, to all our audience and our listeners, this is Amy Killen and Payal Nanjiani wishing you loads of success in your life. God bless.